Ucha ilakum rahubat. I gotta send that video. Okay. Um, this video is going to cover the pillar of textiles and clothing. We must ensure that our modes of expression when it comes to clothing are generated from within. We must create every aspect of our own clothing and perpetuate for future generations of our tribe. And we must control all of the influences that our youth are exposed to in reference to clothing. We must develop all available and agreeable aspects of textile manufacturing and processing. So this means from the fabrics that we can grow, or if it's going to be some silk fabric, like cotton, silk, all of the basic, there has to be a standard of what we will wear. We want to wear things that are, again, that are not in conflict with nature. There's a lot of fabrics that are available that are not, they're just not necessary. They cover the pores in the body so the body can't breathe. They, and I don't mean like insulation in cold weather. I just mean like, wearing something and it's not allowing the skin to breathe. It's not allowing your body to the integumentary system of your body to work the way it needs to work. So we want to, rethink that whole principle of how we're going to go about dealing with fabrics, textiles, clothing, fashion, and all those different things. We don't want our children to the next future generation of our children to come up, what do you call it, narcissistic, let me think about video, narcissistic and self-centered, focused on things that are not, like fads and trends and things like that, and the ease in this society of how our youth are affected by it is ridiculous. And what's even more disturbing is how our youth will grab onto something that's a fad and then, assimilate it into their thought processes as if that's that they came up with it. Like they was like, this is me, this is how I present myself. And it's like, it's not you, it's what you were given, is what you were exposed to, and you don't pay attention to the fact that you are looking at these things on television or on social media, on videos or whatever, or you're listening to music and you're watching things and it's like you don't pay attention to how that stuff is actually affecting you. So the principle of the propaganda in the media and all that stuff is so much more influential and powerful. So moving away from that is paramount. We have to start the process. And it's like you can't go cold turkey. You can't just be like, all right, y'all, we're not gonna wear nothing but loincloth and sackcloth, and like, no, you can't do that. So there has to be a transition. So we have to go to the narcissistic generation of who and what we have become, and to a watered down version of that for the next generation, to a watered down version of that, to eventually we get back to the point where the principle of that fashion and all that stuff is not even necessary in other than to celebrate what we are culturally. Now, there's nothing wrong with wearing an outfit that is, extremely decorated and things like that, and it has a cultural significance, like when we have our festival of the Mamhuda or the festival of the children, Journey to Gan and things like that. So they celebrate the costuming, but the costuming it has a meaning. We're not just walking around dressed gaudy and stuff like that, and we're doing it because we've just been programmed to think that way for so long. So the textiles and clothing pillar is going to be really significant in reference to breaking a lot of the psychological damage that the spell has done to us, just in terms of our self-image. Wearing things that look a certain way, concerning yourself over styles and things like that unnecessarily. All of those things are damaging to the psyche, and we don't even realize. You got children that are committing suicide, and the reason is because children talked about what they were wearing, how they were dressed, how they looked, Not even like, and there were times in history where, people would commit suicide, but it was like they was at the end of their rope. They couldn't find no jobs. They had problems in their relationships and their families. Nowadays, children are like, they're killing themselves, and it's an esteem issue. Somebody said something about them, so now and so instead of addressing the problem, and the problem is how the children are being influenced, the media, they're not concerned with that. They're going to say, okay, we're going to come up with another way to make some money, and we're going to say stop bullying, and we got to save our children who are at risk or suicide, and it's like that's not solving the problem. So textiles and clothing is going to go a long way in terms of starting the process. So we have a kingdom garb, so that is, but the reason that we have a kingdom garb is because that is the beginning of, removing a lot of the stigma that is put on us from fads and things. Living in an organization or being a part of an organization where you all wore the same thing, that did a whole lot for just the energy of the people being able to function together. We had we had very few reasons to have negative things to say about each other, because we was all wearing the same thing. Unless you just were so petty, your outfit is wrinkled, or your outfit is a little dingy or dirty. But even in that case, we'd be like, well, look, man, you need to go ahead and clean your garb, or iron your garb, or something like that, or we'll help you get another garb if you can't do it, and so on and so forth. So it was like you would lean more towards the agreeable representation as opposed to the disagreeable. Whereas in this society, they got us dressed like, everybody is stuck under the peacock mentality. So it's like we have to look a certain way, but we have to look at it. It has to be an extreme presentation. Wearing comfortable shoes is not. That's not even it's not a common thing. It's about how the shoes look, and we will forego, the health of our feet to look a certain way. We will forego the health of our body to look a certain way, and we're wearing tight things and things that constrict the vessels, and they constrict the organs in your body. But just because this is what we've been hypnotized to do, we don't even pay attention to how that is damaging to us. We want to develop a strong fabric and clothing module within the nation to minimize the need for importing of stuff, as well as the need for fads and trends and things like that. It's not even necessary. If we're going to do fashion, we're going to do fashion that again highlights what we're doing within our culture through our language and through our rituals and ceremonies and practices. Not because you got somebody that said, well, this is the next thing, and we're going to force this on everybody, and everybody's going to wear this, and then you're like, no, we're not going to do that. That's going to save a lot of energy and it's going to save a lot of lives as well. The appointed is the chief textile executive. This person, this position, the matriarch that holds this position will be responsible for ensuring that there is a textile, the premise, every premise of textile, fabrics, clothing, even dealing with like cobbling, making shoes and any area of clothing the human, the appointed will ensure that all of those components are in place. The first architect will be the office administrator, so they will make sure that the systems that run all of those different their areas are in place. The second architect will ensure that the structure of all of those systems are the way that they need to be. The third architect will make sure that the resources that are necessary for those systems to operate as efficiently as possible are in place. The legacy builders they will focus on textiles. They will make sure that all of the textile, whatever it is, whether it's and again, we're going to have kingdom textiles that'll be just what we wear, and they'll be the most comfortable. They'll be the most for like free flowing, the most protective, whatever it is that we need, and we will ensure that the processes of creating those, we want to create our own textiles. Like I said, we want to import as little as possible. If we need to get into harvesting the silkworm so that we can create our own silk for silk fabrics, if we're going to do that, then we need to, that's something that we need to do. Any cotton fabrics that we're going to need to create, we need to make sure that our cotton crops, we are on top of that. And all of that stigma about slavery and picking cotton and all of this stuff, yeah, we'll get over that, because we're going to be taking care. We're not picking it for nobody else. We're doing it for ourselves. Master builders, they will deal with actually clothing, and they'll focus on getting the they'll focus on making sure that the uniform of the kingdom, that it's the way it needs to be. All of the sizes, all of the different builders levels, and they're responsible for ensuring that all of the kingdom uniforms, whatever we wear in the kingdom, those master builders will make sure that they are available, and that's what we are representing. Now they'll be like if we're working out or we're doing work details and stuff like that, there'll be simple outfits where there might be khaki pants and t-shirts and things like that, but it'll have things on it that represent us. But we'll have that within our kingdom as well. But again, initially we want there to be a uniformity within the Kalunin, so that we can start to break through that whole image thing and get away from the programming. All right. Professional builders will be fashion outposts, so there'll be things that we create for the outside world, because they'll still be on it until the complete cleansing comes. And so, this will be a method of us generating resources for our pillars. So we'll have fashions and things that are done by the creative minds within our kingdom for usage outside. So when people come to the kingdom, you won't see the fashion that we promote to the outside world. It will be much simpler unless we are having ceremonies. And again, we have ceremonies. The appointers will be decked out. The architects will, they'll be decked out. The builders, everybody, there'll be things that we wear, but it'll be for ceremonial purposes, and it won't be like an everyday thing. The key is to get away from people walking around trying to force attention on themselves, because that's not necessary. If everybody is a part of one collective principle, then there's no reason for us to be trying to force people to pay attention to us. Like, look at me, look what I'm wearing. I'm different. I'm unique. That's not necessary. We understand that everybody is their own individual beings, but at the same time, we understand also how that energy of narcissism works, and it works against the community, it works against the tribe. Trusted builders will be, they'll educate about all of the textiles, and they'll be the ones who train, the textile specialists. They'll train the seamstresses and the tailors and all of those different things like that. The novice builders will make sure, they'll be the ones who engineer all of the machines. So whether it's machines that deal with any crops or things that we're growing for textile purposes, or any machines that are necessary for the making of the clothing. Associate builders, they'll be the kingdom fashion consultants. They'll be the ones who ensure that the builders, that all the pillars have their particular garb that is necessary for that, when they're handling their business as within the capacity of their pillar, as well as standard guards for the kingdom, as well as any other clothing that are necessary. And they'll also be the ones to create reports to ensure that there is a continuity throughout the kingdom based on that. As time goes on, there'll be adjustments, and things it'll lighten up and everything. But again, we got to understand we're moving from a paradigm that was designed completely to destroy who and what we are, the indigenous. So we're moving. So to the process of moving from that to a new paradigm, there has to be a transition. You can't just jump from here to there, because you're going to jump and bring all of this over there and eventually mess this up. All right. Apprentice builders are entry-level consulting assistants, so they'll assist in every fashion, whatever they're necessary, whatever's necessary. The different, like, there's hemp. They can make clothing out of hemp. You have cotton. You have other basic fabrics and things like that. But the all of the extra stuff, like I said, we're gonna not get into a lot of the extra stuff, simply because it's not necessary. I mean, we'll deal with dyes, and we'll deal with everything. But again, there has to be a symbiosis with nature and the universe. All right, so we're not going to be wearing things that it restricts our movement, and it takes us away from being natural. The walks and things that we have in our communities and stuff, the way that we present ourselves, the way that we move, a lot of that stuff has been influenced by how society has programmed us, and it's not natural. We don't walk natural. We don't act natural. We don't say things that are natural. We don't think naturally. So we're trying to get that back. But the textile and clothing pillar will be very instrumental in helping with that process. All right. Until Ganabwagot, Tawahat, Nuya Kalunan, Na Akalunan Daiman. Wadu.